Imagine stepping into your dream home in a quiet suburban neighborhood, only to discover that beneath the manicured lawns and friendly waves lurks a hidden web of prejudice. That's what happened to Jamal, a black software engineer who thought he'd escape the city's hustle for a peaceful life. But when he planted a simple vegetable garden in his backyard, tomatoes, peppers, and herbs thriving under the sun, it ignited a firestorm. The HOA president, a woman named Karen, labeled it an aesthetic blight and vowed to make him remove it. Little did she know, Jamal had uncovered something far darker in their emails. Racist undertones that would unravel everything. What secrets were they hiding? Jamal had always dreamed of a fresh start. After years grinding in a high-stress tech job in the city, he saved enough to buy a modest house in Willow Creek Estates, a gated community on the outskirts of town. The neighborhood promised tranquility, wide streets lined with identical white picket fences, community barbecues, and strict rules to maintain curb appeal. As a single black man in his 30s, Jamal felt a quiet unease during the house hunt. Subtle glances from realtors, questions about his background that felt probing. But he pushed it aside, focusing on the positives. The backyard was his sanctuary, a blank canvas for something personal. Inspired by his late grandmother's stories of growing food during tough times, Jamal decided to plant a vegetable garden. He researched sustainable methods, tilling the soil on weekends, planting seeds that promised bountiful harvests. Tomatoes for sauces, bell peppers for stir-fries, and herbs like basil and mint to remind him of home-cooked meals from his childhood. The garden wasn't flashy, just raised beds framed with recycled wood, blending seamlessly with the yard. Neighbors peeked over fences, some nodding approvingly at the green shoots emerging. It felt like a small victory, a way to root himself in this new place. But whispers began almost immediately. The HOA, led by Karen, a sharp-featured woman in her 50s with a reputation for enforcing rules with ironclad precision, started sending notices. At first, they were polite. Reminders about approved landscaping. Jamal complied where he could, but his garden didn't violate any explicit bylaws. He sensed something off. Karen's inspections lingered longer on his property than others. Unbeknownst to him, emails were already circulating among the board, including Stephen, a retired accountant who handled finances. They discussed maintaining the neighborhood's character, code words that masked deeper biases. Jamal's curiosity grew. Why target something so harmless? As weeks turned into months, the pressure mounted like storm clouds gathering over Willow Creek. Jamal's garden flourished, vines heavy with ripening produce that he shared with a few welcoming neighbors, a quiet act of community that contrasted the growing isolation he felt. But Karen's campaign intensified. Official letters arrived, citing vague violations. The garden was deemed an eyesore that disrupted the uniform aesthetic of the subdivision. Fines piled up, starting at $50 and escalating to hundreds, draining Jamal's savings. He attended HOA meetings, sitting in the back of the community center, feeling eyes on him as if he were an intruder rather than a homeowner. Digging deeper, Jamal requested copies of the HOA's records, a right afforded to all members. What he found in the emails shocked him. Buried in threads between Karen and Stephen were offhand remarks that peeled back the facade of neutrality. Karen wrote of preserving the community's traditional values, with Stephen replying that certain elements didn't fit the neighborhood's demographic profile. It wasn't just about the garden, it was about Jamal himself. References to his race slipped in subtly, comments on urban influences ruining the suburb, allusions to property values dropping because of non-conforming residents. One email from Karen even joked about weeding out the undesirables, a phrase that hit Jamal like a punch to the gut, echoing the microaggressions he'd faced his whole life. The emotional toll built relentlessly. Nights blurred into anxious pacing. Jamal replayed his grandmother's resilience against discrimination in the Jim Crow South, wondering if history was repeating itself in this polished enclave. He reached out to a civil rights organization, learning that similar cases dotted the country. HOAs weaponized against people of color, enforcing unspoken rules to maintain racial homogeneity. Stephen, it turned out, had a history of similar biases, having once blocked a Latino family's pool installation under flimsy pretexts. Jamal's garden became a symbol of resistance, but the threats escalated. Anonymous notes in his mailbox warning of liens on his home, whispers at the grocery store labeling him a troublemaker. Tension peaked when Karen organized a petition drive, rallying a vocal minority of residents who feared change. Jamal's inbox filled with demands to dismantle the garden, each one chipping away at his sense of belonging. He documented everything, screenshots and timestamps forming a digital arsenal. The injustice burned. Why could white neighbors have flower beds or bird feeders without scrutiny? It was clear. The aesthetic blight was a smokescreen for racism, a way to push him out without saying the words outright. As harvest season approached, Jamal harvested his first tomatoes, their red skins vibrant against the backdrop of hostility. But inside, resolve hardened. He wouldn't back down. Instead, he'd expose the rot at the core of Willow Creek. The emails were his key, revealing not just personal vendettas, but a pattern of exclusion that had silenced others before him. With each passing day, the stakes rose. His home, his dignity, his place in a world that still judged by skin rather than soil. The breaking point came on a sweltering August evening, as Jamal sat in his dimly lit home office, the glow of his computer screen illuminating the damning evidence. He'd compiled the emails into a dossier, cross-referencing them with public records that exposed the HOA's discriminatory patterns, denied applications from other minority homeowners, selective enforcement that favored white residents. Karen's messages were the most incriminating. One explicitly linked Jamal's garden to fears of attracting the wrong crowd, while Stephen's responses endorsed escalating fines to encourage relocation. It was a digital trail of bigotry laid bare. Heart-pounding, Jamal Anonymous leaked the emails to a local news outlet and online forums dedicated to housing justice. He watched in real time as the story exploded, first a trickle of shares, then a flood. Social media lit up with outrage, hashtags like HOA racism trending as users dissected the coded language. Reporters descended on Willow Creek, cameras flashing at the pristine gates. Karen's carefully curated image crumbled, her denials rang hollow against the evidence. Stephen, caught in the crossfire, scrambled to distance himself, but his own words betrayed him. The backlash was swift and merciless. Community meetings turned chaotic, with residents demanding accountability. Protests formed outside Karen's home, signs decrying the injustice. Jamal, staying in the shadows, felt a mix of vindication and exhaustion as the HOA board fractured. Investigations revealed financial improprieties tied to Stephen's oversight, amplifying the scandal. In the eye of the storm, Jamal harvested the last of his peppers, the act defiant amid the chaos. The garden, once a target, now symbolized unyielding truth. As resignations loomed, the neighborhood's facade shattered, exposing the ugly underbelly of prejudice that had festered unchecked for years. In the aftermath, the HOA board imploded under the weight of public scrutiny. Karen resigned first, her position untenable as lawsuits mounted from affected residents, including Jamal. Stephen followed suit, his reputation in tatters, facing potential legal repercussions for fiduciary misconduct laced with discrimination. The leaked emails sparked a broader audit, leading to reforms, new bylaws emphasizing inclusivity, mandatory bias training, and the election of a diverse board. Jamal's garden remained untouched and thriving, a quiet testament to his perseverance. He even expanded it, adding sunflowers that nodded in the breeze, drawing admiration from neighbors who'd once stayed silent. The emotional scars lingered, but Jamal found solace in the change he'd ignited. His story rippled outward, inspiring others to challenge similar injustices in their communities, from discriminatory zoning to biased enforcement. No longer isolated, he connected with advocacy groups, sharing his experience to empower those facing quiet racism in everyday spaces. Willow Creek transformed, albeit slowly, into a place where diversity wasn't just tolerated but embraced. This tale, inspired by true events of HOA discrimination across America, reminds us that racism often hides in plain sight, disguised as rules and regulations. Jamal's vegetable garden wasn't just about growing food. It was about planting seeds of resistance against systemic exclusion. In a world where prejudice still poisons the soil of society, one person's courage can expose the weeds and foster real growth. What hidden biases lurk in your own backyard? If you faced something similar, share in the comments. Your story could be the spark that changes everything. Let's reflect. How can we all cultivate communities where everyone truly belongs?